I'm about to ruin the best night of your life. Their dinner arrived from the kitchen just moments ago. His steak is sizzling. Her wine glass clinks against her plate as she sets it down to laugh. The ice in his bourbon shifting. The next table is celebrating a UFIS graduation with a bottle of champagne as the band warms up for their next song. Joyful chatter punctuates the scene until these are the voices of Stonehouse Chaffee Crossing, one of the best restaurants in Arkansas and arguably the best cocktails in the world. This legendary patio, which was constructed by POWs during World War II, stands to lose its tranquility because people from Greenwood want Fort Smith to subsidize their commute. This is what we stand to lose when we widen a neighborhood street into a highway. This is the fourth video in a series about the proposed widening of Massard Road in Fort Smith, Arkansas. In previous videos, we discussed how widening Massard would make a departure from Fort Smith's historic development patterns, how the widening would make traffic worse, how the city will lose wealth trying to maintain it, and for this final video, we'll discuss ways that widening this roadway will ruin our city's small town feel. I don't need to tell you what noise pollution is or how bad it is for birds and other wildlife in Fort Smith, but please indulge me with a short clip from this excellent video from SciShow.
So, to try to separate things out and really figure out how noise disturbs species, these researchers set up a phantom road. They picked a stretch of wilderness far from actual roads and set up 15 pairs of speakers along a half-kilometer path. Then, they played traffic noises, but not like sounds from a 5-lane freeway. They played traffic sounds recorded in Montana's Glacier National Park, where only 12 cars go by every minute. And this audio-only experiment still resulted in more than a 25% decline in migratory bird abundance in the area. A couple of species even avoided the phantom road entirely.
Over half of the resources on noise pollution that I found focused on how noise, especially traffic noise, affects nature. But humans are also affected by it. When you ask Americans what they don't like about where they live, over 25% say it's noise from traffic. That's more than the percentage of Americans who dislike the crime or the schools where they live, making it the largest complaint that Americans have about their own neighborhood. Put another way, considering all neighborhoods in the country, noise pollution is a bigger problem than crime or bad schools, at least according to the US Census. And according to this survey from Retirement Living, 1 in 8 Americans filed a noise complaint in the last year, with traffic congestion as a contributing factor. High traffic levels come with honking horns, loud mufflers, and big trucks. Houston residents suffered from the most traffic noise, followed by Los Angeles. In their overall ranking of the loudest cities in America, Los Angeles ranked first, and Houston ranked second. In cities, eliminating or mitigating noise pollution is an engineering challenge, but not insurmountable. The world has quiet cities in it. We have the technology. And we'll know we did a good job when the market builds street-side dining in residential areas. But we don't have that anywhere, at least not in most of the United States, because we use public resources to prioritize vehicle capacity and speed over street safety and cost. Quiet cities don't put housing next to major highways. If they do, the market corrects that pretty quick, and the houses lose their value and get demolished. Just look at other arterials in Fort Smith. Take a cruise down Midland and you won't see many houses. Go down Grand and it's all retail. Rogers, no houses. This is partially because of zoning, but also because these are older roads and traffic noise has lowered the market demand for housing alongside them. Any housing that did exist was either repurposed or demolished. Phoenix Avenue is our one exception. It's a wide arterial that still has housing, at least in the quietest stretch of it. But it could be that Phoenix is just newer and the market hasn't taken the time to destroy that wealth yet. You can look at old newspapers to see addresses printed in classifieds, And we know, for example, that this vacant lot at 1426 Phoenix used to be a house. That destruction of wealth is what will happen to noise-sensitive land uses, such as housing, on Massard if we widen it to 4 or 5 lanes. In fact, it's already started with Phase 2. Just listen to some of our neighbors who bought houses on the Phase 2 section of Massard after it was widened.
Dear Mayor and Directors, we are here to talk about the widening of Massard.
The wife and I moved here about 10 years ago.
When we moved to Cisterna, we were thrilled to find that our new neighborhood was so quiet and safe.
It was a nice, quiet community.
And we chose Cisterna because it was a quiet area of mostly older people like us.
Along the way, many veterans have now moved into the neighborhood, many retired veterans. And my wife and I have lived there since 2009, and yes, we have been living the romance at Cisterna Villa.
Could we walk in our neighborhood? It's very quiet.
A place to visit and talk about our busy day. And even though there was a road behind our home, it was 90 feet away from our fence, and we were never once concerned for our safety or disturbed by noise.
Massard at times was a 2-lane road,
Massard Road was like a 2-lane road.
and it was obvious that it was going to be expanded to 4. You could tell the place was growing,
We knew that Massard would be expanded.
and we welcomed that.
And traffic on Massard has significantly increased.
We thought, that's great, going to make it better. It didn't.
Y'all have designed a highway and slapped a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit sign on it.
A decision was made to take a quiet residential neighborhood and build a freeway.
It's increased the noise level, and it's become unbearable.
After the road was built, it was impossible to have a conversation. The road noise is incredibly disruptive, and it will only get worse as Chaffee Crossing continues to expand.
With the truck traffic, the motorcycle traffic, mufflers that these people put on these cars.
Very loud, unnecessary stereo systems that are amped up.
We believe the city acted irresponsibly.
There must not have been much concern about the increased noise level that it was going to cause the homes along Massard Road.
And if we look at housing values before and after the Phase 2 widening, our own county assessor estimates that housing values went down after Massard was widened. This was during a period of massive inflation, housing prices and rents going up 40% or more in some other parts of the city, and yet the area where Massard was widened went down in value. And don't forget, valuable housing means more property tax revenue for the county. Values going down and the destruction of wealth has negative impacts for the entire county. The U.S. Federal Highway Administration recommends that cities identify pre-existing noise-sensitive land uses before starting any highway project. That includes what I've already mentioned, the outdoor dining at Stonehouse, and all that housing along Massard, and it also includes something called neighborhood retail. You've heard of retail, but have you heard of neighborhood retail? The retail on Rogers Avenue or Phoenix can only exist on 5-lane arterials. That's things like Walmart or Target or gas stations. But neighborhood retail is stuff that doesn't necessarily need high traffic volume to succeed. I'm talking about things like boutique shops, gyms, coffee places, small medical clinics, veterinarian offices, independent grocers, daycares. These types of businesses like to be built near housing, not near highways. And because housing is noise sensitive, neighborhood retail is sensitive to noise as well. These are the exact types of businesses we've seen spring up in Chaffee. But when a highway displaces their customer base, they'll leave and something more tuned for highways will replace them. Maybe this vet's office will make a good auto zone, and I could definitely see this medical clinic becoming a Dollar General. Rather than eliminate noise, most American cities instead try to find ways to mitigate it. That's actually what cul-de-sacs are for. They isolate housing away from areas of high traffic and noise pollution. Which is a good thing because all these people hate car noise, and I just got done sharing how it can destroy their homes. But the downside of cul-de-sac-based development, at least the form it's taken in the past few decades, has had the unforeseen consequence of destroying something else of value that we'll discuss in Chapter 2. Young people will say, "There's nothing to do in this town," and we, as a city, spend a lot of time, money, and effort trying to prove them wrong. But they're kind of right. Modern Americans have prioritized having a nice house, a nice job, and a nice car to ferry themselves between those two places twice a day. After all, these are all we really need to live, and prioritizing anything else is a waste of resources. Cities have neglected the third, equally important places, are places of community. Nobody has described a third place better than the theme song for the TV show Cheers.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be where you can see our troubles are all the same. You wanna be where everybody knows your name. You wanna go where people know people are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
In the case of Cheers, a third place is a bar, but it could be any place that people hang out and interact in meaningful ways with people who aren't family. That could be a cafe, or a roller rink, or a library, maybe a golf course, a barber shop. It could be porches, parks, or churches. Hanging out may seem simple and unimportant, but it turns out we've eliminated hanging out for large percentages of our population, which removed an important way for people to hear other opinions, to gain empathy for neighbors who live different lives, and for young people to learn the difference between appropriate and inappropriate behaviors from their peers. This concept of community and fellowship is a fundamental part of human nature, but we've treated it as a given that the internet has made in-person community obsolete. Just like cars have made legs obsolete, the internet has made community obsolete. I reject the idea of treating our limbs and communities like vestigial organs. They are muscles that our urban areas stopped flexing and they are withering, but they're an important part of the human experience, and it's time to whip them back into shape. The decline in third places has created a male loneliness epidemic, widespread belief in hoaxes like Flat Earth or 15-minute cities, social media addiction, or any of the other negative consequences of living a terminally online lifestyle. We have created a new substance abuse that destroys mental health and fosters mistrust of your own neighbors. And the internet might be the tool for that destruction of community, but roadways are the fuel. I'm specifically talking about the way we started designing our roadways beginning in the 1950s, but more specifically in Arkansas, maybe more like the early 1970s. We started spreading everything out, not physically, but through curving our streetscape patterns to make the same distances require longer trips. After all, increasing speeds from 20 miles per hour to 40 means no time is lost by making the same trip take twice as far. That's why I call it speed-first development patterns. Of course, nobody wants to live next to all that extra new traffic, so neighborhoods have to be designed to isolate themselves away from it. The modern American neighborhood is now a little pod with as few egresses as possible to minimize the amount of cars coming through it. We also redesigned our networks to isolate the heaviest and loudest traffic noise in one place, what we now call a strode. Thus, the modern American speed-first development pattern. Don't get me wrong, cul-de-sacs have been around forever. Even Aristotle had opinions about their effectiveness. But they took on a new form, a new type of cul-de-sac-based development, when they became the predominant development pattern in the second half of the 20th century. Just look at these comparisons of neighborhoods from the beginning of the century versus those in the end. The earlier neighborhoods have the same cul-de-sacs and dead ends, but they all have trails. Or more specifically, they have filtered permeability. That means if you live in or near a cul-de-sac, you can cut through to the next block on foot. This is especially useful for making neighborhoods safer for children to play outdoors, but it can also be life-changing for the elderly and visually impaired. There are over 2 million seniors in care homes across the US, and most of us will admit that these care homes are depressing because they are so isolating. Seniors can only truly interact with the outside world when they have visitors. And this is because they cannot drive, and speed-first development patterns make it impossible to get anywhere without a car. It's a necessary evil to trap them, we say, to get them the help that they need. But we started designing neighborhoods to isolate healthy people the same way these care homes isolate seniors. Cul-de-sacs can either be dead ends or living ends, and we stopped building them with living ends for 50 or 60 years. Now, anyone who lives there without a driver's license, such as the visually impaired, the epileptic, or children, can't really leave their own neighborhoods. And even people who can drive still have to cut back on leaving their neighborhood because there's too much traffic on the Strode, or gas prices are too high, or they find the experience aggravating because speed-first development patterns give Pavlovian rewards to aggressive driving. Is it any wonder that church attendance goes down when we spend extra money to make it harder to get there? This problem already exists all over Fort Smith, and widening Massard makes the problem worse. These neighborhoods are already little isolated pods, and making it harder for people to leave them, even by just 5 or 10%, means 5 or 10% less participation in community building third places. If you're a church, would you accept a 10% drop in attendance if it got the rest of your congregation there 5 seconds faster? Would you take a 10% pay cut if you got to work 15 seconds faster? Sprawl requires wide, isolating, curvilinear network patterns that prioritize speed and capacity over safety and cost. This is all in an attempt to isolate people from traffic and noise, but it also isolates them from outside community. But you shouldn't need a turn signal to visit your neighbor. There is a better way, and that is to return to the traditional development patterns like we used all over Fort Smith for 150 years. I'm not trying to change the world here. I'm asking us to give the next generation the same childhood experience we got before Strodes replaced neighborhood streets. This is also a conclusion to an entire series on this widening project, a project whose status has wavered since the beginning of the series. Here's everything that's happened. The city of Fort Smith funds roadway expansion projects like Massard Road with a 1% sales tax. At least they used to. Because in 2024, the city presented a plan to the EPA that involved potentially reallocating a portion of that tax towards sewer repairs, and the population voted on it and approved that reallocation. This substantially lowers the amount of funding available for future roadworks, meaning that our city will have to be very selective with our street tax from here on out. With Massard Road being perhaps the largest budgeted project in the entire city budget, this hurts its chances of being widened significantly. Nevertheless, by other measures, this widening project is still in full swing. Some of the initial engineering work has come back, and the new version of Massard has been predicted by its own engineers to be unsafe enough that at least at one point we'll need a pedestrian bridge over the road instead of a normal crosswalk. Now don't get me wrong, I'm skeptical about the benefits of crosswalks myself, so good job recognizing this, but the point is that the City Board of Directors approved that design work for this bridge even after they knew funding for projects like it will be much more scarce for at least the next 30 years. So we're not out of the woods yet, and you can help if you'd rather have the city focus on enhancing its existing roadways rather than building wholly new ones for Greenwood School District. All you've got to do is get out and walk. Let the public and local government see that Fort Smith has people who like to get out and exercise. People who have dogs that need to be walked. Hot summer nights with young couples holding hands, prolonging a romantic evening after dinner. New families from the Foreign Military Project exploring their new home. When we show that we value this type of activity, it makes it harder for the city to justify allocating money towards getting rid of it. You've got to get out and walk.